Hello, and welcome to episode 171 of Rivers Arcade Review. My name is Ed. This channel is dedicated to the coin-operated video games of yesteryear. Today I'm doing a viewer request. Today's game was requested by the viewer Don McCullen, and the game they requested was Joust 2 Survival of the Fittest. Joust 2 Survival of the Fittest was released in 1986 by Williams. My first time playing this game was at Western Trails Mini Golf and Arcade in Oak Lawn, Illinois. Joust 2 was a platform game in which you control a flying ostrich with a two-way left-right joystick and two buttons, one to flap and one to transform. This game is the sequel to Joust, although it wasn't as popular. You need to fly your ostrich around an ever-changing playfield to defeat a series of enemies. Joust 2 has many changes from the original game. The first noticeable difference is the screen orientation. This game had a vertical screen as opposed to most Williams games which had a horizontal oriented monitor. The main reason for this is the game was mostly sold as a conversion kit to modify existing arcade games, which a majority of which were vertical monitor orientations such as Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. You control a flying ostrich with a yellow warrior. Just like the original game, you need to repeatedly press the flap button to make your ostrich fly. You need to defeat a series of enemies flying on green ostriches and come in 3 different colors. The red enemy is called the Bounder and is the easiest enemy you will face. The gray enemy is the Hunter and is slightly harder, and the blue enemy is called the Shadow Lord and is even harder. Your steed as well as the enemies will have a lance that faces forward. You need to fly into the enemies to battle them. Whichever steed has the highest lance will win the battle. If both steeds have the same height of lance, it will be a draw and the steeds will bounce off one another. If 2 enemies hit each other, it is an automatic draw and they will also bounce off each other. If your steed or any enemy hits a solid object, it will reverse direction and bounce off safely. If you or an enemy walks off the screen, it will reappear on the other side of the playfield. Defeating one of these enemies will cause them to disappear and a white egg will appear in its place. You need to catch these eggs in a timely fashion, otherwise they will hatch. If the egg hatches, a new enemy will emerge, although it will be the next harder enemy. If the enemy was a Bounder, the egg will hatch into a Hunter, and if the enemy was a Hunter, the egg will hatch into a Shadow Lord. The eggs from Shadow Lords will continue to hatch into Shadow Lords. You need to use caution once the eggs hatch, because the new enemies will no longer just stand still waiting for a new ostrich to appear. The new enemy will pace back and forth, although there is a twist. The enemies will hold their lance forward in the direction that they are walking. You need to use caution when trying to capture these enemies, because if they are facing your steed when you capture them, you will lose a life, therefore you must capture them when they are facing away. Occasionally, when you defeat an enemy, they will drop a golden egg. Capturing the golden egg will cause a red button to appear on one of the platforms. This button will remain on screen for about 6 2/3 of a second. Under the button will be a box that will display one of 8 bonus items you will collect by pressing the button with your steed. The bonus items are an extra life, a 2,500 point bonus, a 10,000 point bonus, a 3,000 point bonus, a 5,000 point bonus, a super zap, a 1,000 point bonus, and a 1,500 point bonus. These bonuses will be displayed in the order I mentioned and will change every 1/10 of a second and will loop back to extra life after the 1,500 point bonus. Landing on Super Zap will cause all enemies to explode and end the level. If you don't press the red button before time runs out, there will be a display stating no award collected. If the gold egg hatches, it will not re-emerge for the rest of the wave. In addition to the flap button, you will now have a transform button. Pressing this button will change your ostrich into a Pegasus. The Pegasus will allow you to defeat enemies slightly easier, although due to its size, it is harder to keep flying in the air. When you are the Pegasus, you can capture the walking enemies no matter which direction they are facing. Pressing the transform button while you are Pegasus will cause you to change back to the ostrich. No matter how you end the level, you will always begin as the ostrich. This game also offers 35 different playfields as opposed to the original games having one playfield with changing platforms. You will also have the ability to choose your starting level. You can choose level 1, which is a serf, level 6, which is a page, level 11, which is a squire, level 16, which is a knight, level 21, which is a lord, and level 26, which is a king. You'll earn 50,000 points for beginning as a page, 125,000 points for beginning as a squire, 200,000 points for beginning as a knight, 275,000 points for beginning as a lord, and 350,000 points for beginning as a king. If you choose to begin on a later level, the screen will display all the levels you skipped past. You will need to clear the starting level in order to claim the bonus points. Once you select your beginning level, the game will begin. For the purpose of this video, I will be starting on Wave 1. The first wave will be the Ruins. This playfield will have a flat platform at the bottom along with 8 pedestals, the middle 2 of which are twice as high as the others. About 2/3 of the way up will be 2 floating platforms, with the left platform having 2 more pedestals. Your ostrich will appear on the far left pedestal at the bottom. You'll get about 6 seconds to fly around the playfield to get used to the controls before the enemies appear. Once the 6 seconds elapse, 4 enemy ostriches will appear. These ostriches will appear riderless and will flash between green and white for about 2 seconds before the riders appear. Once the riders appear, they will begin flying around the playfield. Just like the original game, you need to defeat all the enemies as well as collect all the eggs in order to advance to the next level. Before you advance, your ostrich will disappear and the playfield will scroll downward to the next playfield. You need to clear each wave in a timely fashion because after about a minute, the unbeatable Pterodactyl will appear. This enemy is nearly unbeatable, although it is possible. Flying your lance into its mouth will cause it to die, awarding you bonus points. I felt it was easier to defeat the Pterodactyl in this game as opposed to the original, and have accidentally defeated it without even trying. Wave 2 and every 5 waves thereafter will be a survival wave. If you are able to complete a survival wave without losing a life, you will get a message, you survived, and you will earn a 3,000 point bonus, although if you lose a life there will be no bonus. This wave will consist of 5 bounders and takes place on a playfield called the Blues, which consists of a lower platform with 6 pedestals, with the 3 on the left twice as tall as the 3 on the right. There will also be 2 floating platforms about 2/3 of the way up the playfield, although there will be a rock on the edge of these platforms which will keep you from running across the platform to warp to the other side, although you can fly over this rock. On the edges of the bottom playfield will be a lava pit. If your ostrich falls into the lava, you will lose a life. You also need to make sure that you don't let the eggs fall into the lava because if an egg falls into it, it will re-emerge from the lava and mutate into a large red, yellow, and green egg which will immediately hatch into a mutant. The mutant will be blue like the Shadow Lord, although the steed will be a buzzard with a green tail. The mutants will fly erratically, making it harder to defeat them. The mutants will also drop an egg when defeated, which you can collect for points, although if a mutant egg lands into the lava, it will be destroyed. Wave 3 will take place on the altar. This playfield will consist of 3 platforms in the center of the playfield, each at a different height. Above the top of the platform will be a series of gray bird-shaped shadows. 5 enemies will appear from these shadows, 4 bounders and 1 hunter. Beginning with this level, the lava troll is back. If you or an enemy flies too close to the lava troll will reach up and pull you or your enemy down. In addition to these enemies, this wave adds a new enemy called Deceptus, also known as the Mechanical Buzzard. This enemy is a large red buzzard with a yellow lance above its beak. To defeat this enemy, you need to hit it with your lance higher than his. This enemy will drop eggs onto the playfield. Just like the eggs dropped by the ostriches, you need to collect them in a timely fashion, otherwise they will hatch into enemy warriors just like before. This enemy will phase in and out, making it hard to defeat. Wave 4 brings a new enemy, which are the bats. These bats are tiny enemies that will begin hanging from the bottom of the floating platforms. These enemies will have a yellow beak sticking out of them and will fly erratically throughout the playfield. You need to hit the bats with your lance above their beaks to defeat them. Inside of the platforms will be red gems. After about 5 seconds, new enemy bats will emerge from these gems. Once the new bat emerges, the gems will flash red and white, showing no more new bats will emerge. In addition to the bats, there will be 2 regular enemies. Wave 5 and every 5 waves thereafter will be the egg wave. The egg wave begins with 12 eggs being placed randomly throughout the playfield. The playfield will have a solid bottom level. The second level will have 2 gaps with the center platform having 3 distinct levels. The top will also have 2 gaps, although the far left platform will have a tree with a large nest in it. The egg wave plays similar to the original game, although there is a big change for this game. Instead of giving you time to collect the eggs, 2 eggs will hatch within 1 second of the wave starting. You need to either collect all 12 eggs or defeat the warriors to clear the wave. Wave 6 takes place in the layer of vultures. This playfield only has 2 platforms to stand on. First is on the left center of the screen, and the upper is on the right center of the screen. There will be 2 gold vultures carved into the upper platform. You need to use caution when around these statues because they will emit lightning, which is fatal to your player. This playfield also has 4 rows of the bird-shaped shadows and 1 under each vulture. 6 enemies will appear from the shadows like earlier. The Mechanical Buzzard will also attack and drop the red bat gems as well as warrior eggs. Hitting the red gems with your ostrich will cause a bat to hatch, although if you hit one with the Pegasus, the gem will be destroyed. The gems will also hatch on their own after several seconds. Wave 7 takes place in the arena and is also a survival wave. There are still 3 levels, with the lowest having the lava pit in the center, and the second and third levels will have 2 gaps in them. Other than the different platform layout, this wave plays like a traditional survival wave. Wave 8 brings a new challenge. This level is Magix the Pulverizer. This level will have a platform just to the right of center and 2 platforms on the edges of the screen at the top. There will also be bird shadows at the top. In addition, in the center of the playfield will be a large robot. Just below the robot will be a large piston. The Approximately every 8 seconds, the piston will slam downward, destroying everything in its path. You need to avoid this piston because it will cost you a life. This piston will also destroy the pterodactyl. There will be 4 red pins on the robot, 1 on each arm around the elbow, and 1 on each leg around the knee. You need to hit each pin with your lance to destroy it. You need to destroy all 4 pins to defeat the robot and clear the wave. If you destroy the robot with enemies on screen, you'll automatically get a super zap and all enemies will be destroyed, although if you destroy all enemies, the wave will not end until you destroy the robot. Wave 9 is another bat wave which is played on a pyramid-shaped platform. You will not only face bats but ostrich warriors as well. Wave 10 is another egg wave which takes place on the red alert screen, which has a lower platform in the center with what looks like a statue of snakes on the left side. This statue will also emit lightning, which must be avoided. Just like before, 2 eggs will immediately hatch, leaving walking warriors on the platforms. Wave 11 takes place on the sentry level, which has 3 platforms, the middle one being a tree branching out of the 2 pedestals. The lava pit has been replaced with water, and there will be a new enemy which looks like the Loch Ness Monster in the water. This monster is invulnerable and must be avoided. This enemy will also reach out of the water and pull you or other enemies under. Wave 12 is another robot wave called Enter the Night Lord. This wave plays just like the previous robot level. Wave 13 is a traditional wave on the playfield named the Magix tree. This will have a gap in the lowest platform with a small rock sticking out of the water. The upper platform has a tree on the left side of it. This wave will also be the beginning of the Pterodactyl wave. Before the enemies appear, the Pterodactyl will emerge from one side of the playfield. The Pterodactyl will stay on the playfield until either you clear the level or defeat it. Wave 14 is another bat level on the playfield called Branches of Terror. Wave 15 is another egg wave which takes place on a platform that has 3 levels of platforms and another with a tree on it. Like before, 2 eggs will immediately hatch at the beginning of the wave. Wave 16 takes place on the Pyramid of Power. This level has many slanted surfaces, making it hard to land on the platform. This level and all levels following except for egg waves will begin with the pterodactyl flying around the playfield. Just like earlier, the pterodactyl will fly around until either the wave ends or you destroy it. Wave 17 takes place on the Daredevil screen and is a survival wave. Wave 18 takes place on a 3-platform playfield. The playfield has an upside-down coffin-shaped item in the center. This coffin will have a piston similar to before, although now it will slam down about every 8 seconds. Wave 19 is another bat wave which takes place on the Bat Blaster screen. Wave 20 is another egg wave and takes place on the same screen as the first egg wave. Wave 21 takes place on the board Heavy Metal, which consists of 3 levels of floating platforms. Wave 22 is another survival wave and takes place on a playfield with 4 platforms which are multi-leveled. Wave 23 is another robot round named Return of the Night Lord and is played the same like previous robot rounds. Wave 24 is another bat wave on the Bat Breath screen. Wave 25 is another egg wave and takes place on the same board as the second egg wave. Wave 26 plays on a board named Statues Alive. This playfield has 4 levels of platforms of differing heights with an ostrich statue on the 2 platforms on the right. Your ostrich cannot land on these statues and will fall through and possibly into the water below if you aren't careful. Wave 27 is another survival wave with 2 pyramid-shaped obstacles on the top 2 platforms. Wave 28 is a traditional wave, although now there will be 2 pterodactyls. This board will have platforms on 6 differing heights. Wave 29 is on the playfield Return of the Crystal Bats and is another bat wave. This wave will have 3 levels of platforms, with the top platform having a snake statue that emits lightning, which you need to avoid. In addition, this wave will not begin with a pterodactyl. Wave 30 is another egg wave which takes place on the same screen as the third egg wave. The pattern of all future egg waves will repeat in the same order as 5, 10, and 15. Wave 31 takes place on the screen Vulture Deities. This board will have 3 levels of platforms with eagle statues on the second and third levels. These statues will not only emit lightning, but their beaks will open and close and will defeat your steed if you hit them when their beaks are open. Beginning with this wave, the lava has returned as opposed to the water. Wave 32 is another survival wave which has 4 more eagle statues that emit lightning. Wave 33 is a traditional wave with pedestals sticking out of the lava, making it hard to land as well as less of an area for the eggs to land. Wave 34 is played in the Bat Chamber and is another bat wave. This wave also doesn't have a pterodactyl. Wave 35 is another egg wave, although at a harder difficulty. Wave 36 takes place on the Nest board. This level has 3 platforms with the highest consisting of a large nest. Wave 37 is another survival wave and takes place on Buzzard Bait. This level consists of 2 levels of platforms and a small statue below the lowest platform. Wave 38 takes place on the Wailing Wall, which has 3 levels of platforms with the lowest having angled edges. There will also be a snake statue on the upper right platform which emits lightning. Wave 39 takes place on the survival of the fittest level. This level consists of 2 platforms, with the lowest being multi-leveled with the snake statue that emits lightning. Level 40 is another egg wave at a harder difficulty. Beginning with wave 41, the board order repeats at a harder difficulty. Beginning with wave 53 and every 5 waves thereafter, with the exception of waves 78 and 83, the wave will begin with 2 pterodactyls as opposed to 1. I believe this happens because the immediate wave following is a bat wave, which doesn't have a pterodactyl at the beginning of the wave, with the exception of waves 74 and 79, which will begin with the pterodactyl. Once you reach wave 100, the display will show wave 0, which is an egg wave. What happens after you clear the egg wave varies based on which version of the ROM you are playing. If you are playing ROM version number 1, collecting the final egg will cause your steed to immediately freeze in place, and the screen will display wave 56, Pyramid of Power, although the layout will not change, with the exception of 2 gold pistons that will appear about 1/3 of the way up on the outer edges of the screen. Once the pistons appear, Pterodactyl will enter the screen along with 6 Shadow Lords. The Pterodactyl will continue to fly horizontally and pass through the pistons. The Shadow Lords will fly around the playfield until they reach the top, where they will be trapped on that horizontal plane. The pistons will continue to slam down every 8 seconds like before, and the game stays that way until it is reset. I'm not sure if this happened in the actual arcade cabinet or if it's an emulation glitch, although the second ROM set doesn't have this glitch, and the game rolls over to wave 1, although it begins at the Pyramid of Power. This game has a 2-player simultaneous mode just like the original game. During a 2-player game, the survival waves have been replaced by the team wave. Unlike the survival wave, you don't need to clear the level without losing a life. Clearing the wave without knocking the other player off their steed will earn both players a 3,000 point bonus. In addition, during a 2-player game, wave 3 and every 5 waves thereafter will be the gladiator waves. During these waves, the first player to knock the other player off their steed will earn a 3,000 point bonus. This game also allows you to continue if you lose all your lives, although you only get 10 seconds to deposit a coin or you will be locked out. Inserting a coin will reset the counter back to 10 seconds, and you will retain your score if you continue. Scoring for the game is as follows. You'll earn 50 points for losing a life, 500 points for defeating the bounders, 750 points for defeating the hunters, and 1,500 points for defeating the Shadow Lords. You'll earn 250 points for collecting the first egg, 500 points for collecting the second egg, 750 points for collecting the third egg, and 1,000 points for collecting the fourth and all further eggs, and you will receive a 500 point bonus for catching an egg before it hits the ground. The point total for collecting the eggs resets each wave or when you lose a life. You'll earn 500 points for defeating each bat, 1,000 points for defeating the pterodactyl, and 3,000 points for defeating the mechanical buzzard. On the robot rounds, you'll earn 500 points for lancing each of the red pins, 5,000 points for defeating the robot, and 1,000 points for each enemy remaining on screen. I enjoyed playing this game, although I did have issues of confusing the buttons when I played it in the arcade because I would transform instead of flapping, but I recommend playing it, especially if you can find it in an arcade setting, since this is a rare game. I like this game more than Robotron 2084, but not as much as the original Joust, so Joust 2, Survival of the Fittest, flaps its way into the 69th position overall. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any games you'd like me to review, please leave a message below or on my homepage. Please remember to hit like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned to new videos every Sunday.